It's Thursday, July 27, 2017. Our guest today, Assistant Professor of Political Science from Alabama A&M, Shannon Reeves. And for the first time on the program, political consultant John Meredith. I'm Dale Jackson. You're watching Yellowhammer Live TV. Welcome back to Yellowhammer TV Live. Yes, I do know the name of the program. We have a great show for you today. We'll be talking a lot about the Alabama Senate race and how it has basically become a question of who do you love more, Jeff Sessions or Donald Trump. We'll talk about transgenders and the military and a whole lot more. Let's go ahead right now and get to the headlines. I don't think anybody expected Jeff Sessions to be a big issue in the United States Senate race, but it is. And with Donald Trump continuing to pound away on Jeff Sessions, which of course we'll get to a little bit later in the program, we have watched as U.S. Senate races have tried to stake out the appropriate position in order to minimize the damage that fight will do here to their races. Congressman Mo Brooks is taking an interesting tack because over the last couple of weeks, he's been getting pounded by Luther Strange and Mitch McConnell's pack out of D.C. for not sufficiently loving Donald Trump. Congressman Brooks' rebuttal is, I support his programs and I'll support the president. I just wish he wasn't so terrible sometimes. That's essentially where we are at this point. This is a shift, though, because this is outright criticism of the president. Of course, it is for the criticism that the president is dumping on Jeff Sessions. The question here is, and let's go first to John Meredith. The question here, John, is what does this shift tell us from Mo Brooks? He's away from, I support the president and his policies. Now it's I support his policies, but he's being a jerk to Jeff Sessions, and I don't like that. What does that tell us, John?
Well, in reality, what it tells us is that Mo Brooks' Senate campaign isn't doing quite as well as he would like it to be doing. I think Mo suffers, frankly, from the same symptom a lot of good people suffer from involved in politics, and that is he's a truthful person, and he doesn't throw mud unnecessarily, and watching from his perspective, watching the president essentially denigrate someone who means a lot to him personally. There's a connection between Representative Brooks and Senator Sessions that goes back dozens of years. And I think Mr. Brooks is very disheartened by the treatment that Mr. Sessions is getting. And I think that's what has prompted his latest suggestion, if you will, that we all step back and let Mr. Sessions have his seat back.
That's kind of my favorite part of this story because nobody believes that Mo Brooks really thinks everyone's going to say, okay, this is Mo Brooks basically signaling to everyone else in the field and everybody watching that if the fight is over who loves Trump or Sessions more, he's going to go with Sessions. Now, the play here is that Sessions is wildly popular in Alabama. The question here, Shannon, becomes this: is Sessions more popular than Donald Trump in Alabama? I don't think that he is. I don't think that he is. I think Trump is a different kind of figure, and I think a lot of people in Alabama really like what they've seen out of Donald Trump. Mo Brooks was never one of those people, but I guess the question is Trump more popular than Sessions right now?
He might very well could be. However, that might be a short-term knee-jerk reaction based on the emotion of the politics of the day, and particularly with Sessions not being on the ground or not being vocal about his positions in the whole spat with the president of today. I think for Congressman Brooks, This is one of those situations in a campaign when you're feeling like you're behind. Maybe you can pick up some coattails by standing loyal with Sessions. Whatever base Sessions has statewide is larger than the base Brooks has. And if he can show that, hey, we're sticking, Alabama true, with one of our own, if he can pick up some points that way, that's possibly a strategy in this case.
I totally agree with that, but as a citizen of Alabama, what is far more important to me is that either one, or if you include Judge Moore in this, the candidates need to talk about why we as Alabamians should vote for them. And I don't think that the wall is an issue for an Alabamian to vote for U.S. Senate for. I mean, they're completely obfuscating what a U.S. Senator means to the state of Alabama.
You're talking about with the three of us sitting here and the people watching this at home. We're paying more attention to this than anyone else is. Everyone else is just getting those particular blurbs that is coming. Before we switch subjects here, just real quick, Luther Strange put out another statement about this whole kerfuffle that's happening, and I asked this question on social media. I said, is Luther Strange trapped somewhere without a TV? Because in his statement, he says that that he supports the commitment that Sessions and Trump have made to each other to work together. And I'm like, where is that coming from? That's just him continuing. Luther Strange just putting his head down and chugging towards the finish line. Is that right?
It's brilliant. Though.
Okay.
That's what you're supposed to do. Hey, I believe the president's a good guy. He's going to work it out. I believe the senator, the attorney general is going to work it out. I'm for both of them.
Yeah, they're both great guys.
And kumbaya.
Okay, all right. Let's move on to the next issue. Strange has a pretty good ally here as well. It's not Donald Trump. He's not coming down and offering his support. Richard Shelby, the other senator from the state of Alabama, is going to be hosting a fundraiser for Luther Strange in Birmingham, $1,000 a plate. Couple of questions for me, and Shannon, will go to you first. The first question is, if the argument is I'm not the establishment, Shelby's the wrong guy to bring in here. However, well, he also doesn't need the money either because he's got McConnell's PAC dumping in all this money. However, Shelby has won re-election repeatedly. Whatever the scuttlebutt is about Shelby, he still wins. This is a good get for Strange. I mean, this is a legitimacy play for him, correct?
Absolutely, and it tells you if you're looking at the race, it tells you that Strange is confident that he'll be in the runoff and he's moving towards solidifying bases beyond the initial primary.
It tells me that Shelby's sure that he's in the runoff too. I mean,
yes.
Because if there was a question, I don't think Shelby jumps in here. Recent polls, John, that were out, excuse me, the first public poll that's been out so far has Strange at 30%. Moore at 26%, and Mo Brooks at 16%. A lot of people already have played, that's a fake poll and all this other stuff. I looked around, I asked around, and this is how I look at these polls. Do the politicians believe them? And I think the answer is yes, the politicians do believe them. Strange is only helped by Shelby getting involved here. I mean, it doesn't harm him at all. John, is that true?
Absolutely. And it just goes to show that Senator Strange is now part of the establishment. The reason that he has that cash advantage is because the establishment, Mitch McConnell, is supporting him. The establishment has interfered with all of his challengers' ability to raise money. The establishment has put out the word that you will not work with anyone running against Senator Strange in this election.
Okay, so you mentioned the establishment, and you say it like that, and I think to myself, if I'm Strange, I want to avoid this at all costs. I want to avoid people saying you're the establishment, you're the establishment, you're establishment. Now Shelby comes in. I mean, I look at this, and I know you, Shannon, we already talked a little bit about this off the air. I look at this as almost the same as McConnell coming in here and waving the Strange flag. You're not going to do that. It's a little different with Shelby.
Yeah, but unless you have a Donald Trump persona, and I mean, which is a certain phenomenon, the establishment wins all the time. So the establishment means money, it means organization, and it means historical context and knowledge of how to win a race. If Congressman Brooks is 10 points behind with 18 days to go, unless you have organization in 67 counties, you can't make up that gap to get in the runoff. And politics is a thing of math, and math doesn't change in any country, no matter where you are.
All the internal polls, just you get your guys' thoughts on this real quick. All the internal polls from a couple weeks ago had Moore, Strange, Brooks. Strange has gone up about 6 points from what I heard. Moore's about where he is. Brooks is down about 6 points from everything I heard. These two stories, Mo and the Sessions and Trump stuff, Shelby, Strange, they play into that shift. I mean, you're a professor of political science. You are a political consultant. The shifts we're seeing lead you to believe those polls are accurate. Is that fair, Shannon? You first.
Yes, and tie that in with the amount of ad dollars that are being spent by Strange particularly. He's pounding away, and we still have 18 days.
Yes.
In a Republican race like this, the big money doesn't even come in yet until the last 10 days, depending on kind of where it is in a race like this. So there's more to come, and after the Shelby fundraising event, they got to roll something out to show he's standing with Shelby as well.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And this event that Shelby is sponsoring for Senator Strange is significant. You don't often have events where it's $1,000 a plate in the district or in the state. That's almost unheard of. I've been to many events for Senator Shelby. It was not $1,000 a plate.
Yeah, this is a y'all come around because Strange is your guy.
Yeah.
Stan Pate, we talked about this yesterday, Swamp Drainers pack. He's getting ready to make a huge play. We'll see if that has any impact on the race. Let's move on. Donald Trump did something that was unexpected yesterday. I know we could just say that pretty much every day. We should have a segment called Donald Trump Did Something Unexpected. Did away with transgender in the military. I served in the military, and I can tell you this right now. I was there in the don't ask, don't tell days when individuals came out as gay or were found out to be gay. It was a cohesive destroyer. I can't imagine how this would work if you were told, hey, you're going to shower with that guy who's now a girl. I mean, to me, this seems like a complete farce. But we also know that the military has been used repeatedly as a social petri dish in this particular case. We'll get into that angle of this in a second, but just real quick, John, this is a distraction ploy by Trump. There's no reason to do this. Is this a, hey, look at all this chaos I got going on, and now I'm going to solidify my base and pick a fight with the media? Is that what this is?
To a certain extent, he's definitely solidifying his base. He's actually diffusing a potential legislative issue over medical treatment for transgendered, specific to hormone therapies. The sight of it being very expensive on the medical side is not true. It is 0.04% increase. So it's really not that. He is trying to stave off that another legislative failure by doing this. And frankly, it's a pretty smart political ploy to do so.
Shannon, you think this is a smart call by the president?
It's a master manipulation.
He's like, dance clowns.
Absolutely. Think about it. The transgender voter is not a Trump voter. You don't get them anyway.
Plus, there's like 0.03% there.
That's number one. Number two, and throw in LGBT.
Yeah, anyone who's fixated on this issue, Trump lost a long time ago.
Yeah, they're not with him anyway, and it's a total opportunity to distract. There's no movement of our marches or demonstrations in the military, no uprising calling for this to rise to the level of a personal statement by the President of the United States.
Yeah.
It's a master manipulation of the media to keep people dancing and distracted from other issues.
If you put a Venn diagram up of people that were transgender and people that want to be in the military, there is almost no overlap. I mean, this is a complete fabrication. But what Trump knew, and this is where Trump is brilliant, he knew that one group of people that cared about it were people that are in that New York, Washington, D.C. elite media bubble. Because they're social liberals. That's what they are. He poked them directly in the eye, and then he said, do something about it.
Drive them crazy.
And they wrote story after story after story, and middle America goes, we don't care about this.
Because his tweet said, after meeting with my generals, my generals say that, hey, this is something that we have to do. We got kind of North Korea. We got a lot of things going on. I don't think this rises to the level of even having this major discussion.
The most important generals had no knowledge of this.
Yeah, they were surprised by the whole
The secretary only had 24 hours notice. So
this is politics. Pure and simple.
Totally,
absolute politics. All right, let's stay in Washington, D.C. here for a second. Every single day, it seems they're trying to advance the football further on this Obamacare repeal. 51-50. They had to bring Mike Pence in even to have this conversation, and they lose every single vote after this so far. We have watched as the repeal replaces failed, the outright repeal failed, and you saw 6 individuals, including John McCain and others, who voted on this exact same bill in 2015. Now here we are, 2017. You could actually get this thing done, and they go, changed my mind. Now, again, this is not about John McCain and Heller and all these other guys. This is about, in my opinion, the Shelbys and the Stranges and the others who said repeal, 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 who might be in races, not that Shelby and Strange are, but they have races where they say, I voted to repeal it. It was those other Republicans who didn't. I mean, this is, again, I hate to say this is politics, but those 6 individuals who went back on their word, are they going to suffer any blowback at all in their home districts, or have they calculated this out? Shannon?
No, I think the issue is too chaotic now. It's too, what bill are you voting on? Repeal, repeal, replace, repeal light. The voters are totally confused because the senators are confused. Yeah. So I don't think, I think it's so chaotic that any politician can explain their way out of their current behavior at this time.
We tried our best. I mean, that skinny repeal, there's a CBO report.
Where's the fat repeal? I mean,
Fat repeal get defeated.
The skinny repeal is if you have like an under 20 BMI, you don't have to buy health care.
Right,
but the skinny repeal, they said, is going to lose 16 million people will lose their health care. They still keep using that terminology, which is brilliant if you're against any kind of repeal. But the skinny repeal is essentially the mandate's gone. So all those people will choose not to have health insurance, yet they're still calling it losing your health insurance. John, is this going anywhere?
I hope not. I do see that I see votes to pass. Though,
okay, so you think
not only the mandate, but also the medical device tax. I think both of those are truly in jeopardy. And if both of them go, then you're looking at from CBO scores, 20% increase in premiums. So it's going to go up, which is the one thing they said that wouldn't happen.
Right. The mandate was done to pay for stuff. And if you do away with the mandate, the idea is you cripple the whole program. And that's, by the way, that's by design. I mean,
and what's also by design is once you decide, oh, yeah, I guess I'm getting a little older and I do need this health insurance, now it's going to cost you tremendously more than before.
I mean, the thing was plotted out with landmines all the way through it. Because when, like I said, it was by design. When you take it away, it kills the program. Mm-hmm. But when you put it there, it's almost impossible to take away. That's
one of the bigger deceptions is the Republicans are the reason Obamacare is in trouble. They pulled off a Jack Abramoff, where the Abramoff told the Indians, you know, he got elected people to institute policies that were against them, and then said, if you hire me, I can fix your problem. And Republicans over the last 7 years have done everything they can to make Obamacare non-competitive and be in trouble. So now that it is in trouble and they have the opportunity to fix it, they don't have a plan.
I agree. I agree completely.
And that's just
they've laid their own trap, and they have into it. Absolutely. And Democrats, just to be real here, we got to take a time out. The Democrats designed this thing to have problems, and
the Republicans stepped right into it.
Absolutely as well. All right, let's take a quick time out. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about the Sessions Trump fight. It continues. Sessions goes to the White House, dogged out by the president on the other side of the White House. But is there a path for him to stay? Stay tuned. You're watching Yellowhammer TV Live. Welcome back to Yellowhammer TV Live. Let's continue our conversation. That seems to be a never-ending conversation about the President of the United States fighting with his Attorney General. It just sounds absurd. But Jeff Sessions continues to get pounded. And as I mentioned before, Sessions goes to the White House yesterday for a regularly scheduled meeting, not with the President of the United States. They still don't talk. It's been over a week. Trump goes to another part of the White House and fires shots at Sessions while he's there, still talking about potentially firing him. However, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the press secretary, says there is a path to victory for Sessions to stay. Just keep doing what you're doing on immigration and law enforcement and gangs and all this other stuff. It just seems like, and going back to the earlier subject, Mo Brooks, I think, knows this, that Sessions is on his way out the door. Is there a path for him staying at this point? Because it doesn't seem like Trump wants him to. Shannon?
The path to stay. One path to stay is that it's very difficult for the president to replace him, pragmatically. It's very difficult to replace him because who you're going to get confirmed is a problem. The notion of a recess appointment is problematic because what if they choose not to go on recess?
Like Republicans did to Obama.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To start, what if they try that again? So that becomes a difficult situation. The question is, what does Jeff Sessions want to do? Does he want to stay there and deal with the abuse of it all, or not? So it's a matter of, sure, the president can fire him. The president has problems because clearly he has no problem firing someone. He hasn't done it yet.
And he wants him to quit. I mean, this is obvious to me that he wants him to quit. So all those issues happen whether he fired or resigned. The only thing that happens if he resigns, Trump says, it's not my fault. And everyone paying attention goes, clearly it is your fault. And I guess the question here is, if Sessions resigns, he lays out the scenario that's going to be hard to replace him. But the whole issue is about the Russia investigation. That's all this is about. It's not about anything else. It's about the Russia investigation. Trump's fixation on this is sinking his presidency. John, do you agree?
I would definitely agree with that. At this point, we are really, truly teetering on the verge of a constitutional crisis in this country. I know it's been said a lot, but
every day that becomes more true.
People need to understand why this is happening. And I was actually in a conversation with another political friend of mine in D.C. who made the point, why do you think, they asked me, he said, why do you think President Trump is so enamored with Mr. Putin? And his suggestion was that he wants to do exactly what Putin did in Russia. He wants to supersede government. He wants to become the permanent figure of government. And this stuff with Russia and the firing of Comey and the potential firing of Mueller and what's going on with his attorney general is his way of dictating what the courts and what law enforcement does, which is one of the techniques used early by Putin to take control, permanent control over the government.
If Donald Trump would just stay out of his own way, he's got the House, he's got the Senate, he's got the Supreme Court. If he would just focus on doing stuff as opposed to all this other chaos, he could have that. I mean, the simple fact is he could have it, but maybe not the way he wants it. I want to ask this question. I keep getting told something that I think is pretty funny. And I host a talk radio show. I love Twitter and Facebook and all these things. So this is a crazy conspiracy theory, but I want to get your thoughts. I keep being told that this is a con put on by Sessions and Trump of a play because they're going to come out and start going after Hillary Clinton in order to regain the trust of the president. This is what I hear from my friends on the right who think that Trump is some sort of master manipulator here, as we talked about before. Any thought that this is what this is about, opening the door for a Hillary Clinton investigation?
I don't believe that. No. I don't believe. I mean, Sessions doesn't need that. And Sessions is a man of integrity. I don't think he needs to play that game. And he's been a public servant too long to want to play a game at that level. I think ultimately, at the end of the day, the most important thing to this president, beyond anything else, is he does not want his personal financial records to be filtered through by Mueller and then leaked to the public. He's not going to release his tax returns. I think that's personally very, very important to him, and I think he'd like to fire Mueller, but I think Sessions is saying, I'm not going to do it while I'm sitting here.
Does Sessions hang on? Is he gone by Friday afternoon? I think he is. That's my take. What do you think?
I don't know about Friday, but I don't see him staying much longer under these circumstances.
John? Timing, no. Timing's irrelevant, but no, I don't see him staying.
Okay.
And frankly, I agree with you.
I'll disagree with you there. Timing matters for the Senate race.
No, I mean in terms of Sessions being an honorable person who's caught up in a very tough spot at this point.
Okay, let's take our last time out here real quick. When we come back, we'll talk about what the biggest news of the day is. Welcome back to Yellowhammer TV Live. Let's get to it. What's the biggest story of the day? John, you're up first. What's the biggest story for you today?
Well, I'll preface mine by saying You also presented me an interesting topic, and what I think is interesting, not necessarily the biggest news of the day, is what if this area, Huntsville, Athens, Decatur, took up the model that Nashville did and merged all of their governments into a metropolitan area? I think this area would be well served by doing that. I don't think there's a 20-80 government match that this combined metropolitan government would not be able to do. It would be great for our infrastructure. It would be great for jobs and economic development.
Big talk in Birmingham about some of that stuff as well. Shannon, what's your biggest story of the day?
Big news of the day, White House Communications Director Scaramucci attacking White House Chief of Staff Reince Priebus for leaks, accusing him basically of being the leak.
When Scaramucci was a leak on Sunday.
So I think one thing to watch will be the fight between Scaramucci and Priebus. I predict Priebus will be out and Scaramucci will one day be the White House Chief of Staff.
The biggest story for me today is all of this talk of secession and things like that. California, Cal exit, back on. They're talking about potentially doing that. And at the same time, HBO has a movie coming out about what if the Confederacy won. People very upset about that as well. But I'm looking forward to it. The Man in the High Castle is a great show on Amazon where what if the Nazis won? I'm in favor of this kind of alternate history stuff. We'll be back tomorrow. You're watching Yellowhammer TV Live.